Here's another video to the Voxtur drama before the voting finishes. And I really promise in this video I'm not going to swear. If I do, I'm going to edit it out. But I might cry. I might literally cry. You're not going to believe. You are literally not going to believe what you're going to see here. Because this is on another level. This is just on another level. Legendary level of, I don't know, crooks. Like these people that are trying to take over control of Voxtur, they literally think we are stupid. So let's go. Let's go again. This is the letter that came out on June 19, last week. Voxtur shareholder for accountability file information document and nominate alternative directors for upcoming annual meeting and special meeting. So they have like 19% of the company shares, right? They want the leadership, board leadership change is required to address value destruction and Voxtur's anemic performance, right? They want to appoint Al Qureshi, who's running Blue Water right now, to bring proven leadership needed to Voxtur, and they want all of us to vote for them because change is needed. Then Al Qureshi had a letter 2 days later talking about, and I went over this, that the existing management team and board have failed to create value. Okay, now look, if you came to me and you started saying, I'm disappointed with Voxtur's performance, the stock is down, they didn't deliver on this or that, I'd be like, I would listen to you and you can be like, I have proposed changes. Okay, let's have a conversation, let's listen to it. If you have a plan, maybe I'll vote for you, if it makes sense, right? But if you are the one that is part of the problem, if you are the one that created the chaos or part of the chaos, if you're responsible for a part of the decline in the stock price or big part, I mean, I would ask you to leave, right? Like, are you insane, right? Would you like a mirror? Like, okay, if it was someone from the outside, like, okay, let's talk. But if you're responsible partly for the problem, you need to have your head checked, right? So in a previous video, I talked about how Voxtur stock price declined significantly. And I'm talking about Blue Water because Blue Water was acquired in September of 2022. And since then, the stock price declined 85%. And I'm talking about Blue Water because the person behind this entire thing is Nick Smith, right here, this individual. He was the seller. He was the seller of Blue Water to Voxtur, and Al Qureshi founded Blue Water. So he's running Blue Water, right? That's why I'm talking about Blue Water. Great asset. But Blue Water was partially responsible for Voxtur's underperformance. Why? Because Blue Water was acquired on September 22, 2022, and in order to pay the $101 million price tag, the company had to, meaning Voxtur, had to take on $30 million of debt, okay? To do that, based on the projections that were given by Nick Smith and Al Qureshi from Blue Water. I don't know who did it, but certain projections were given. At the time of the acquisition, Blue Water was making 17 million of revenue, 11 million of profits. Fantastic. That profit was supposed to be enough to cover the interest payments on the debt, right? Now, that didn't happen because instead of Blue Water growing and making even more money, not only it did not keep the existing profitability that it had of about 11 million, it went to making no profit because per month it costs them about 500 to 600,000 per month of expenses. And right after the acquisition, that was the revenue. So they became, after the acquisition, instead of becoming a profit generating addition to Voxtur, it became a drain, right? And this became problematic because the interest rates went up, so the interest payments on that debt that they took went up, while the performance of Blue Water went down. So people started freaking out about the total debt level for Voxtur, and this is what contributed to the stock price decline, right? And why didn't Blue Water deliver on that performance? Well, part of it was because interest rates went up and it shook up the space that Blue Water was in, and that's why it underperformed, right? So they should take part of the blame. But there was another reason why Blue Water underperformed, and it was a loss of a big client. And now, what was the reason? What was the reason why the client was lost? And this is where it becomes truly unbelievable, because the people that want to take over the board might have something to do with this. Yeah? Let's go over this. So once again, Voxtur closed on the acquisition of Blue Water when? On September 22, 2022. Do you know what happened about a month earlier? About a month earlier, there was a press release. On August 3rd, 2022. Two Arbors Investment announces definitive agreement to acquire Round Point Mortgage Servicing Corporation. So, Two Arbors is a publicly traded company that is an agency and MSR mortgage real estate investment trust, announced that Matrix Financial Services, a wholly subsidiary, entered into the definitive stock purchase agreement to acquire Round Point Mortgage Servicing Corporation from Freedom. Do you know what this means? Freedom was a client of Blue Water. The reason why Blue Water lost $6 million of annual revenue is because this client, Round Point Mortgage Servicing Corporation, was sold to Two Arbors Investment. This is the reason why Blue Water went from being profitable to not being profitable. Now, what does this have to do with Nick Smith or Al Qureshi? Well, one thing is, this happened a month before the closing. Did those two individuals know about this and misrepresent it? I don't know. But here's what I do know. Two Arbors Investment Corporation was the buyer of this client. Yeah? Two Arbors Investment. When we go to this letter that was issued on June 19 by this group, and we go to the bio of Nick Smith, and we read it, Look at this. 2 arbors. Mr. Smith served as managing director of 2 arbors. Prior to joining Blackstone, Mr. Smith served as managing director of 2 Harbors Investment Corp. Unbelievable. What's going? This guy wants to help us. This guy wants to help us. But a month before the closing, a month before, Rice Capital sold Blue Water to Voxtur. Round Point was sold to the company that he used to be a managing director, but now used to be is in the past. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he didn't know. But Al-Qureshi probably knew. Maybe they didn't know. Hey, I'm not here to accuse anybody of anything. Maybe they didn't know. But here's the thing. If you look at the bios of Rice Capital Management and you type in 2 Harbors, Sean Kelly has ties to 2 Harbors Investment Corporation. This lady has ties to they all work for Rice Capital, 2 Harbors Investment Corporation. This lady has ties to 2 Harbors Investment Corporation. This lady has ties to 2 Harbors Corporation. This lady has ties to 2 Harbors. This guy has ties. Is there anybody at Rice Capital that doesn't have ties to 2 Harbors Investment Corp? When I went to their staff, there's 13 staff members listed under staff, and 7 of them have connections with 2 Harbors Investment Corp. What's the probability that none of them knew that this transaction was happening a month before the Blue Water transaction closed? Now, hold on a second. And then after Voxtur closed on the acquisition, remember, September 2022. Then in December 28, so what, couple months later, that's when Nick Smith, the guy that wants to help us right now, became Voxtur Analytics is pleased to announce the appointment of Nicholas Smith of Rice Capital to the company's board of directors effective immediately. So after the Blue Water, he was appointed to the board of directors of Voxtur, right? Because he sold Blue Water, right? So he was appointed to Voxtur board of directors. Now, sometime during the beginning of this year, this investigation happened on Twitter. January 28th, where all of this thing was pointed out and emailed to all these people. Qureshi, Jordan, everybody here, pointing out exactly what just happened, whether there was misrepresentation from the sellers, which is Rice Capital, from Al-Qureshi, whether there was misrepresentation about the financials of Blue Water, right? And you can find this in the description below, right? I'm not making this up. You can find all of this in the description below, and you can read it on your own. Because what I find interesting is that this was on January 28th, and then on March 8th, Mr. Nick Smith resigned as the chairman of Voxtur. So did this exposure have anything to do with this? I don't know. But the point of this video is this. Voxtur acquired Blue Water on September 22. Since then, the stock price declined 85%, which is disappointing to everybody. Blue Water underperformed, and it didn't deliver on the promises that it gave. Not only that, a client was sold to Two Arbors Investment Group that is tied very closely to Rice Capital. This client loss cost Blue Water $6 million of annual revenues. Only now, Blue Water is getting back. Gary just did an interview with Almost Mongolian. The link to this interview is in the description below. And he was talking about how Blue Water, hopefully this year, is going to get back to what it was when they acquired it. Now, I'm not saying there was misrepresentation. I would never do that. All I'm saying is that the people that are trying to take over Voxtur today and help us are the people that, number one, underperformed on Blue Water. That's a fact. They all agree. And the same people have ties to the reasons why Blue Water lost a big client that cost Voxtur $6 million of annual revenues, taking Blue Water from a profitable cash cow to a money-losing entity until recently. So over the last 2 years, as Gary pointed out in this interview, Voxtur had to fund the development of Blue Water. Voxtur had to fund the losses of Blue Water this entire time. Voxtur had to dilute. Remember, there was a private placement that investors, you and I, put money in to fund Blue Water because they lost a client that was sold to Two Harbors, which had ties with Nick Smith a month before the acquisition of Blue Water by Voxtur. And now you guys are complaining. You are complaining and pointing fingers at Gary's underperformance after Blue Water didn't deliver on its promises, and after somehow you were tied to the selling of a client that lost Blue Water $6 million of annual revenues. You are now coming to us and you are telling us that you will help us? Holy cow. The kind of help that you provided over the last 2 years, I can't imagine the kind of help you're going to give us when you would actually gain control. God help us.